Coffee with Charlie. This is a series presented by Figma where I get to sit down with the design systems leads from all different types of teams and companies. We take a peek behind the scenes and inside their Figma files to learn how the design systems work and what challenges they've faced in putting them into place. I'm your host, Charlie Marie. I am the creative director at ConvertKit, and I also make a lot of videos about design over on my own YouTube channel, Charlie Marie TV. Today, I sat down and had a coffee with Ramy Majouji, who is a product design lead at Glossier, which is incidentally one of my favorite brands. Ramy's been on the team at Glossier for 2 years. He's originally from Montreal and now living in New York, and he spent his whole career working in tech or tech adjacent things. Ramy is definitely a Figma power user. He uses the features in some really interesting ways, so there's a lot of cool parts to this design system that I got to see and that I'm excited to show you. So let's get into it. Well, welcome, Ramy. Excited to have you here and excited to dig in and see some of Glossier's design system. Huge fan of the brand, huge fan of many of the products. And so it's fun to, get a peek behind the scenes of this other side of a brand that I like so much. Tell us a little bit about design systems and the team at Glossier. Who's working on it?
Yeah, so the product design team at the moment is two product designers, myself and one other design lead. And as far as design systems go, we don't have a dedicated person that who works on them full time. I work on it whenever I can and whenever it makes sense. But most of our time is spent working on e-commerce features and upcoming products or launches and things like that. So design systems is really this kind of almost like side projects that we get to work on whenever we have a chance. But I do think it's important for us to carve out some time to just kind of create tools for us to move quicker and just maintain some kind of consistency across all the different things that we do.
Yeah, that's always the thing. It's a trade-off, right? Because it takes time out of getting the work done to like stop and put things into the system and finesse things there. But it's like time well spent because it can help you move faster in the future.
Yeah, especially when you have a project where you need to move like very quickly and you don't maybe have time to kind of dig into old files for the latest design or so it just kind of takes a lot of the tedium out of kind of future work and gives you more time to work on the stuff that matters.
So aside from it being a really small team, just 2 designers working on the system, whenever you can in between projects, what other challenges have you faced in building the system and how have you tackled them?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one for me is making the time to work on it. Frankly, it's this kind of chicken and egg problem where not having the time to work on it makes feature work and maybe a bit more, a bit harder to work on and sometimes a bit longer. But then that means that there's less time to work on design systems. So I try and dedicate about 10 to 15% of my time to it wherever I can, just to kind of as an investment into my future self, if you will. And so, I try to be cautious about, having blocks of time where I can only just kind of focus on that, because otherwise all my time is spent on future work. And it's something that is hard to prioritize if you don't kind of draw a line in the sand and just kind of go for it.
Yeah, just make it happen, right? And the cool thing about what your design system does is it's not just for you designers, right? The other people on the team use it too. So there's been that to consider as well.
Yeah, there's we put together a few different tools for folks outside of product design. So for a marketing team, for instance, they have all these email templates that they can use for marketing and drip campaigns. They send about 2 to 3 emails a week. So that's really accelerated their workflow and allowed them to experiment faster and better. We also have this tool, which I'll show later, but it's this homepage hero preview tool. So the copywriting team and the brand team can drop in assets and imagery and copy and see how it flows in different at different breakpoints and how it looks like and how it looks on the homepage. So this is also something we do fairly often if we have a new marketing campaign or we're launching a new product or there's any kind of merchandising effort that goes on for the Glossier homepage or any other part of the site. They have a few of these little tools to help them preview their work in context. So that's been helpful for them as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that leads to more succinct copy when they're putting copy in and seeing like, whoa, this makes this header block way too long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they also don't have the tools to do it, directly in the code or in some kind of content management system where they actually can preview it. So that really gives them a feel for how their work shows up.
Yeah, I love that.
To customers ultimately.
Well, let's dive in and take a look at all of this then. Do you want to share your screen with us and let's take a look?
So we have this, essentially we have one file where we have everything. We keep everything in a single file called, the design system is called Primer, named after our moisturizers. And so we have a few different pages here, but the main one really is this sort of global components page. This is a page for components that are shared across different surfaces, different types of pages that are used across the board. So things such as footers, the global footer, the global navigation that you see at the top of the website. We also use variants to allow us to toggle between different states. So if we have, we can turn on or off this promo banner. We also have this sale mode that we've recently developed, where if we have a sale, we can quickly kind of turn the website into a sale mode, and all these different components change accordingly. I can also choose whether or not I want this sub navigation. There's this interaction where if you scroll up and down, it'll hide and display itself. So in practice, what this looks like is, if I take a variant here, just drag it over on the right hand side. Now I have all these different options.
Nice.
Using variants. Yeah, so these are all the different components. And for almost all of them, we have this base component, which is not published. So you can see here with the dot before the name makes it so that it doesn't get published to the actual library. But then I base all the variants off of this base component.
Right.
So that if there's like a fundamental change to the base one, it'll cascade down to all the variants. And this is particularly useful if you have a fair amount of variants. And yeah, same thing for little badges, modals of all kinds. This is buttons. So this is one example where the base components are very, very useful.
That is a lot of buttons.
I know, yeah. And these are all organized with auto layouts because I'm reorganizing the whole file. Usually they would be arranged a bit neater, but this is a bit of a construction site, if you will. But just to kind of demonstrate why this is useful, let's say tomorrow we decide we don't want rounded rect on any of the buttons anymore for some reason. I just go into these base components that are not published, change whatever property I want, change, and then it changes everywhere.
Nice.
Whereas if these were individual components or variants that were not, instances of each other, that would be a much more tedious task. Oh, I missed one here. But yeah, so this is kind of how it's been helpful, and text areas, inputs, all that good stuff. This is one that's one of the more elaborate ones. But same idea here. I've got the different states, default, hover, active, all that stuff, whether it's inputted or not. And then recently, I was able to hook up all of our interactive components, which has been kind of fun to work with as well.
So you're definitely a Figma power user then. Loving it.
I do like to keep tabs on the new stuff.
Yep, and adopt it straight away. It seems that's really cool. How does this work with engineering? How is the design system connected?
This is an actual representation of what cool. Engineers have to work with. So let's say if I go into inspect here, all these different properties for the most part, or rather, they reflect how the API was designed for these different components. And also, we have this other part of the design system, which is the color system. The way it works is you have a set of primitives, which is kind of your color toolbox, if you will, and then those get assigned to functional variables or colors. So these actually represent like a semantic use of a color. And this is useful if again, like if you end up changing a specific shade or a color palette. If you have a lot of these color variables, we don't have a ton of these here, but there's definitely ways in which a design system in this area can be much more complicated, and that makes a lot of find and replace. It makes it a lot easier to work with. We recently had, migrating the old system to this was a whole lot of find and replace and manual QA and checking things by hand. So we kind of just did all the work up front, and this has been a lot easier to work with. So for developers, as you can see here, we have the actual variable name that they can use from the color API, such as border, hover, active, primary, content. And we have some inverse, a few of the inverse colors as well. And then all the way to the right here, we also have product swatches. So most of them are image fills. So they kind of represent the texture of what the product looks like.
Cool.
We have a few of the bomb.coms that are solids, but those are also available in the fill palette. So if I go here, let's say, create a frame. And if I go into color styles palette, I have all these color variables that I was talking about. And then further down, we have all these image fills.
Nice.
So these are used on the product page. On product pages, we have little, pill circles that represent these, the texture or the colors of the products. And so I can just kind of go ahead and select this, and I have my neat little variant pill, and I can use it however I want. Instead of having to, find a Dropbox folder where we have all the all the image assets, we can just kind of go in here and select whichever shade we like.
And it means that the design system can stay up to date too, right? Like if a product color changes, if the swatch changes, you just replace it and your designs stay up to date.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually had that happen recently where our creative or brand team kind of reshot a bunch of these, and I had these in a few different components for the product page, for instance. And instead of having to go in and replace everything, we just updated these image fills, and everything kind of cascaded down to everywhere they were being used. So that was a cool little kind of proof of concept of this use case.
Yeah, that must have been a moment when you were like, see, all that time I put in was worth it.
Right. Exactly. It was very satisfying for sure.
Can you show us how you've used product photography in your system? Because I know that you've gone heavy on the variants there too, and that
absolutely,
it's super unique.
Yeah, so we've got essentially we work a lot with photography at Glossier. So most of the image assets that we use are photos, and we have a great creative brand team that takes a lot of time, and they put a lot of effort into creating really great photo assets. So we've recently imported them into Figma, and we have different variations of photos. So if I demonstrating this will be easier. So if I drop in an image asset, which for the product, we have all the different sets, all the different products. We have different types of shots. So we have the still life shot for each product, and have the in hand.
Nice.
And then in the case of Skywash here, we have different shades as well. So they all have different colors, and I can switch between different shades. You also have open and close caps. Nice. So I can open or close the cap, and then we have different crops as well. So portrait and square. These are useful for different types of applications. For instance, like for emails, we use square crop. For most of the product grids, we use portrait crops. And then we also have different backgrounds. So we have the transparent photo, where they Photoshop out the background, and then I added 2 options with a white fill in Figma. And notice this that this white fill actually uses the color variable that I was talking about before, so that also kind of inherits the colors. Cool. So yeah, this is super useful. I can then also switch to a different product. So this is really useful for just putting comps together really quickly, and avoid having to repeat the same image either just out of laziness or if you run out of time. It just makes working with photography so much faster.
Right, yeah.
So
you need
this
placeholder
is
content for something, boom, you've got all the images
exactly,
right there. Yeah.
So I can just kind of duplicate it, change the product, and then I'm done.
Amazing.
So this is super useful. So this is what the file looks like. So each row here is one product, and then all the different variants of that product is a different variant inside of the component. So this was a larger. This is weirdly really fun to look at.
Yeah, super cool use of variants. Gives me a lot of ideas for things that I could be doing differently as well in my own design system. What about jumping into the parts of the system that other people on the team use? Because I think this is really interesting. You know, like often design systems are set up for designers and engineers, and you're using it for other parts of the company as well.
So this part here, this is where the creative team sort of meets, or can preview all the different layouts for the homepage hero. We have three different layouts that they can choose from. One is full bleed. The other one is this 2-up layout where they can feature two different images. And then the third one is this wider 16:9 aspect ratio, which mostly we use for video, but sometimes for photography as well. And this basically is a tool where they can drop in assets, and those will cascade down to all these different little artboards. And these reflect the different breakpoints from our design grid. So that way they can also go up here and change the copy in this little artboard at the top. So let's say introducing our new hero collection. And they can also change this body underneath here. And then if I go down here, now all the copy and the way it flows within their frames and everything is kind of updated in real time. So it's almost like a website builder, but for within Figma. So it's a Squarespace almost.
Yeah.
So this is really useful for them to be able to preview or make an informed decision about a certain art direction they want to take, or if they're not really sure how something is going to look, it really gives them the best tool to do that.
That's so cool. I love that you're having them do this within Figma as well, rather than, just having to try and keep a different tool up to date with the same colors and the imagery and all the things. Like I know a lot of marketing teams use Canva for stuff like this, and it's like great that you've taught everyone how to use Figma. Yeah,
and it's fairly easy to use too, and people tend to enjoy it. So
that's great.
It just makes everybody's life much easier, and also it was an easy sell once you show people the possibilities. This is a very compelling demo when you're trying to show somebody. So.
And it looks like you've laid it out with instructions sort of in line as well in the file.
Yeah, exactly. So this is useful for anyone who's maybe new to the team, or they just started using this. It's as self-serve as possible.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. Do you want to quickly show us some of the email stuff too that the team use?
So for instance, here I've got a 2-up email template, and if I want to switch to the mobile layout, I can turn on this other frame here, and I can, if it's actually resized properly, then
nice.
There you go. So they can kind of use this to preview emails. I still have to convert all of these to proper variants. So this is maybe a bit a more dated way to do it. But this is kind of a simpler way to have email templates. Lots of work to do here, but it's still been useful to just have kind of a basic, skeleton of emails and be able to run with it as well.
Yeah, I love that it's empowering more people in the company to think about design and to take action on design themselves. I think that's especially important being a small team, right? That you get help from.
Yeah, so I think it also introduces people to the concept of design systems and how useful they are. Especially in a context where you do something over and over again. I think people start to get kind of why we systematize things like this.
It's all right. Well, we can end it there then. On that note, thank you so much for showing us around the system. This is been super cool to see. this side of Glossier and all the smart ways you've used all these Figma features. I hope you enjoyed getting a peek inside the Glossier design system as much as I did. It definitely inspired me to go back through some of the marketing site design system I've set up for ConvertKit and make better use of variants for sure. Thanks for joining us today. Let us know your favorite part of the system we got to see down below in the comments. I'd be interested to know which part was new to you or stood out to you the most. And stay tuned and subscribe to the Figma YouTube channel for more videos in the series coming very soon. We'll see you then.